We're calling the finance meeting of April finance meeting of the Troy Public Library to order. It's 5:02. And the first item for our discussion would be the proposed Troy Library money management accounts. And they have been distributed and described. And the purpose of this was so that we're all in agreement and understanding of how we're managing our money and in what ways. Thank you for putting that up, Joy. And so we've been at this a number of weeks, actually, months. And we did have a meeting about 2.5 weeks ago. And we've come to agreement on what our recommendation will be for the board. And the whole purpose of this was just the clarity of what accounts are for what purposes, so that we could best track our monies and organize them in a way that there was concurrence and agreement on what to expect in each account. And I'll summarize and then open up for discussion, but we're consolidating to 3 bank accounts: the key bank payroll, key bank short-term, and key bank collateralized investment. Within the investment account, we have 5 operating administrative accounts: the long-term operating, the operating reserves, the board designated, and designated construction, and then an additional construction account. And in our discussions, we went back and forth and defined these accounts as the result of our discussions, to bring these into alignment with how we will manage our monies and in what accounts. And again, the reason was just to have agreement on how we managed our money for easier tracking or for consistent tracking. I'd like to give you a little time to read this on the screen, and then open it up for discussion.
Brianna has a question, Bob.
Okay, surely,
Well,
Brianna.
I just wanted to make sure everybody had a chance to read. I know I had to leave our special finance committee meeting before it was wrapped up. And I was just wondering, is this the language that was finally decided upon by the group at that meeting?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Well, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be obstreperous. I really don't. But one, there was still some question. Brianna, again, thank you for your modifications to the description of the operating reserve. I think when we left that meeting, I still had the issue with repayment within 2 months, and I continue to have that issue. Then the board designated line is new, so it wasn't exactly determined at the end of that special finance meeting. So this has been added since that meeting, and I certainly had some questions about that line. And
What are your questions?
The fact that it's called board designated, I'll ask this, or I don't know if it's better set as a question or as a statement, but when I see board designated, does that imply that it's just determined by the board? What does that imply to the process of using the funds in there? And the other two parts of that line, I don't think I have a problem with.
Let me try to explain my understanding and then ask Marie for her comments.
Mhm.
When we received unexpected cash donations to the Troy Public Library, such as we did last year, the question was, which account does it go into and in what manner? And by having a board designated administrative account, we can separate those monies that come in for our designated use, board directed designated use, and monies that come in for other purposes, sometimes tied to particular actions that we receive. So we wanted to have a place to put donated money that may have some expectation to it. For example, the 197,000 was obviously targeted to support activities directly to our patrons and set up as a part of a person's will and final determination. So by not mixing it with our other funded monies, we clarify these are monies that are available that we all have a responsibility to utilize well and in line with their purposeful donations. Some people may donate for a children's room, for example, and it would be up to us to be sure to align the expenditures with the purpose of the donation. So that was my understanding of the board designated donated cash. Marie, do you have a comment? Could you clarify if you didn't agree with what I said?
As indicated in the description, I saw it more as funds that whose purpose or use hadn't been determined yet. And it gets you that makes the place for something like the bequest that we got to go until the board determines that it should be used for a specific purpose, at which time it might be, it would be moved into one of the other accounts.
Could I say something about the next line that says cash that's usage is undetermined?
Mhm.
Could we maybe tighten that up a little bit so that, you know, it's not, when it says it's undetermined, it almost sounds like, oh, we can go out and party with it or something. But needs to be used for this citizens or the community or something like that.
Well,
Yeah.
but it doesn't need to be. I mean, it requires board approval for anything that's done with it. Maybe that should be added,
But needs, well, yeah, but
but we don't know what it would be used for.
but wouldn't you say for the library or the library's participants or something like that? I mean, just that it's cash that's usage is undetermined seems to me like it's just kind of hanging out there, you know, and people could say, well, you know, did they go out and have a party? Did they spend it on this? Did they spend, you know what I mean? It just looks like it's too loose. I think if we should tie it that its usage is undetermined, but needs to be used for the good of the library or the community or whatever.
Well, and
That's
also
just my
to,
reaction to that line.
Well, and also to Bob's
Excuse
point.
me, it's Bob. I'm not sure who's speaking. Is that Jerry?
Jerry, yes, sorry.
Yeah. Jerry, by designating it as a board designated, there would be no opportunity for expenditures without the entire board agreeing on its purpose and oversight.
Well, the board could go out and have a party, go on a cruise or something, you know what I mean?
Well, the board could do that with any of the money here,
Well,
but then we would be guilty of not upholding our fiduciary responsibility.
okay, well,
I mean,
it's
there's no reason we couldn't use operating funds for it too, or
okay. I mean, that's just the way it struck me, so.
we could change it so it's cash, its usage has not yet been determined.
Yeah,
if you think that would be better.
So you're suggesting an edit that would change the description to cash usage that is not yet determined?
Yes,
Yeah,
cash that's usage has not yet been determined.
yeah,
Because we need
Okay.
to have some place for that to go and until it can be determined where it should be used.
I mean, it's a splitting hairs maybe because it says it's undetermined, but undetermined is different from saying has not yet been determined.
No, that's fine.
Well, would you like to put that in the form of a motion to
Well,
amend this?
we should really do a motion on the entirety of the proposal.
Now,
Well,
Brianna,
Excuse me, Marie, but Jerry just proposed that we amend the description of the board designated to add yet determined. Cash that's used is yet to be determined. And I wanted to clarify that before making a motion on the whole document, because that's the point of discussion right now. So is that correct, Jerry, that you would like to amend the description of the board designated to read cash that's usage is not yet determined?
Yes, I think so. Is that how you said it, Marie? However you said it, it was right.
Yes, cash that's usage has not,
Yet been
that's
determined.
usage is not yet determined.
Yes,
Okay.
yet been determined. Yes.
Joy,
Brianne?
are you able to edit this document now while it's up on the screen?
I wanted to jump in because by your description, Bob, prior to Marie's description, it seemed implied that some of that usage was determined by the bequests of the people. Like you were saying, if somebody wanted a children's room. So it has been specified and it has been determined. We just haven't actually spent it yet. So would it be clearer to say donated cash received for specified or unspecified purposes, usage for unspecified purposes to be determined by board?
If the usage had been specified, then it should not be in this category of the board designated.
Are you saying because it would go into designated construction?
Because it should go into one of the other accounts, or if there's not an appropriate account, we should have one. Because it's under those circumstances, it's donor restricted.
Mm-hmm.
It's, so it has it has something that it has to be used for, such as, as the designated construction is.
Okay, so what account is that?
Which one would it go into?
Yeah.
So you'd need to create one, right?
Well, we may need, as we haven't used this structure before, so we may find that we need to create others, but I could see it going into operations.
Let me try to get back to the proposal. Jerry had made a motion, and the motion is being discussed, and Brianna was suggesting more specificity. And so I wanted to see if we could recapture the motion in an agreeable way. Would you like to try to restate it, Jerry, or would you like to try to restate it, Brianna?
To incorporate what Brianna was saying, we could still say donated cash reserved for unspecified. Well, then we can't say unspecified. I was going to say cash that's use is not yet determined, except in the case of specified. something specified by the donor, but then that doesn't fit with the second sentence. So maybe we should just put that specified donations in another category. I don't know.
Well, if the understanding is that if the money that was donated was specified, that at that point we would reassess and create a new account, then I'm fine with that being assessed at the time and keeping the language as Jerry originally proposed, which is cash that's usage is yet to be determined. However, I believe Evelyn has been trying to jump in.
It does say cash received for unspecified purposes, so that would be that cash. We need another account for cash that's donated for a specified purpose, obviously. I think.
Well, or it may be possible for that to go into one of the existing accounts.
I know.
Just answering Bob's question super quick. Sorry to interrupt. Bob, I do not have access to the Word file. That's a PDF file. So
Okay.
I'm unable to change that at this moment.
Thank you, Joy.
Sure. And Evelyn, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. Since we're talking about, again, modifications and the fact that it's called, was it board determined? I think, can there be another name for that? Because it implies that it's only the board making this decision, and that it cuts administration and staff out of the process. Thanks, Joy. I'm glad to see it again. So I think I understand the purpose. If we're putting the fact that it has to be board approved, I think that's great. But I think called board designated implies something other than what it is.
I think it is the board determination. I think it is the decision of the board and not the staff and not the administration. Not to say that their opinions aren't considered in it, but it is the board vote, as opposed to, let's say, operating, where that is under the control of the administration.
But even operating, usage requires board approval. So the operating reserve has its name, it has its issues there laid out and how it works. And I think that same thing should be a concomitant with that other new account.
And I didn't say operating reserve, I said operating. So there you have an operating account and you have a long-term operating.
But we are
Let
looking
me
at,
try to
Neither one
let
of
me
those.
try to
applies.
limit and more focus our discussion. Because we open up discussion on one administrative account, and then we move to other things, and there's a motion on the floor. So what I'd like to focus on is the third administrative account, bookkeeping account, and describe it in a way that is acceptable. I don't want to open up the discussion to other things until we've completed that. So the title board designated is not, it doesn't seem to be controversial. The description of the source, donated cash received for unspecific purposes. Is there agreement to leave that as is? If there is there, let me ask it another way. Is there disagreement to leaving that source description as is?
I mean, the second box, donated cash received for unspecified purposes. Is that what you're talking about? That one?
Yes, donated cash received for unspecified purposes.
I think that's okay. I haven't seen it.
And what it really does is distinguish between all of the other sources of contributions that we get. So the description is what's in discussion. And Jerry had suggested that we say cash that's usage. Let me
Is
not
not
put
yet
words in your mouth,
determined.
Terry. Could you restate what you'd like the description to say?
Cash that's usage has not yet been determined.
Okay, so adding that is not yet determined.
Right. But that's for unspecified donations, right?
Okay, I think what that certainly conveys is that money will sit in there until it is determined, and it would be only determined by the board. And that should give us both control and approval to utilize this in the correct way. What we've been trying to do in this whole effort is to make sure that we have proper buckets to be clear about what money goes where. And I think this is a grand improvement on that accountability. So if your motion is to amend the description to cash that's usage has not yet been determined, I'd like to ask if there's any more discussion on that or proposed change or opinion.
I did want to mention that although Paul, this wasn't part, that particular row wasn't part of the previous finance discussion, that Paul was in favor of what was proposed for operating reserve if this other account was established. And he had no objection to the return within 2 months.
Yes, in our last meeting, I started the meeting with the purpose of agreeing, and we ended the meeting in agreement. So, well, you can shake your head no, Evelyn, but
You know,
I asked if there's disagreement. You didn't speak up. So
I did.
we've got a motion on the floor.
And Bob, I might add that I did, Paul did see this.
Yes.
Even the new row, he did see that.
Well, we left that meeting in unity. So there's a motion to amend. Is there a second to amend the motion as presented, which was cash such usage is not yet determined?
I second.
Okay, any discussion?
We're only voting on this specific line right now? Or are we voting on the whole thing?
The box.
Just
Are
that
we
box?
voting-
We're just talking about the description of the
box.
board designated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And only that changed. Now we're not talking about the whole thing.
Okay.
Okay, if no discussion, may I have a vote? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's carried.
I'm
I'll
abstaining.
send that to
Bob,
you on
Bob,
email after
Bob,
the meeting,
excuse me?
Joy.
Bob, excuse me. I'm going to abstain from that vote, just so you know.
I'm also abstaining.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. I didn't hear either one of you.
Of the three choices of approve, yes, no, or abstain, I'm going with abstain. And I
Oh,
think-
I did not call abstained. I
Right.
thought people would have an opinion. Would you like
you
to
may-
vote abstained, Evelyn?
Yes, I do. And I think Brianna, would you like to speak up, Brianna?
Yes,
for
please.
yourself?
Yes, I would like to abstain as well. Thank you.
Okay, so it's,
Bob, I don't know if it'll be easier to do a slow roll, I guess, to just call everybody's name out and then say yes, no.
no, I would like, this has been to the board more than one time. We've had 3 meetings on it. We have a vote on the floor and the vote is 3 approved and 2 abstain.
Okay,
I would like to move it forward and bring it to the board at the meeting.
Well, what did we just vote on? Didn't we just vote on that one little line, right? That's all.
Yes, that was the only amendment.
Right. So we have other boxes in there to talk
There are-
about where it goes to the board, don't we? Maybe I'm
Yes.
missing something here.
Yes, we do have things to get to. Thank you, Evelyn.
Yes.
I'm
So
sorry. I'm
now,
not-
now what I'd like is the finance meeting to vote on recommending to the board in the meeting that we adopt this as amended. I'd like to make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
And we're adopting only that one line, is that what you're saying?
Yes, and we've only altered that one line according to your amendment.
But-
This vote, though, is on the remaining boxes,
This vote is on the remaining boxes?
right? It's on the, yes.
All right, I would like to vote, if we can, call a vote. All in favor of recommending adopting the accounts as amended? Aye.
Aye.
Which, I'm not sure which account you're talking about, the whole thing?
The whole, yes. I mean, actually, the other counts were really approved previously.
So it's just
So-
this new one, in yellow that we're voting
So,
on?
so this is really the operating reserve and also the board designated account.
Actually, I'm sorry. I have to say this. That one other box with Operation Reserve, the descriptive box, there was still some issues about it. It was not approved by the board, and not totally approved. We left that last meeting of the special finance meeting with it still to be determined.
Right, so didn't I just say that that line and the undesignated, the board designated had not been?
No, you were saying that we had approved it. At
No,
least that's what
I
I was
wasn't.
hearing. That's
Unless
what
I
was-
misspoke. I thought I said that the operating reserve and the board undesignated had not been.
Let me try again to ask for the vote on whether to recommend this as amended in our meeting. And I call for the vote. I voted yes, Marie voted yes. Are there any more yes votes? Are
What?
there any no votes?
What is
I
the,
vote-
this you are recommending, the whole thing?
Yes, we are recommending the proposed Troy, what was posted on what we've been talking about for the last half hour.
All right,
We're recommending to recommend that tonight for adoption with the amendment that you gave.
I vote no.
Okay, one no. Any other nays?
I'm not sure that that's, I think I abstain on that.
One abstention, one nay. I'll vote yes. Marie?
I vote yes.
I'm sorry.
And Brianna, you're abstaining?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, then that gives us. Did you vote yes, Jerry?
No, I'm abstaining too, because I have some
You're abstaining too. Okay, then
concerns, some
this
issues.
doesn't pass. We can't recommend it to the board tonight. And I would just like to state my frustration. We've had at least 3 very long meetings about this. We seem to agree when we leave the meeting. When it comes time to present it to the board, it doesn't happen. I don't quite know what to do about that. But if we can't align our accounts, we can't properly administer the fiscal oversight that we need to do. So it's beginning, in my mind, to reach a crisis. Maybe we can straighten it out with the audit, but I'm disappointed. Okay.
Well, and I'd like to add that currently that bequest, that there hasn't been a decision made as to how it should be used, has no place. It's in the investment account, but it has no booking keeping account for it to be in.
Let me, we're running over, but we need to discuss the finances. The operating finances, the revenue is $80,000 below budgeted expectation. But we do know that that is solid money coming in. There's not an ongoing concern about the full receipt of payment. And our expenses are over by 13,000 for this year, 10.7K in the materials, 6.3 in the facilities. In terms of managing our monies, again, we're right on budget with the expected catch up of the tax alignments that have been approved recently. We also have been informed of a $7 million increase to the overall library board funding at the recent state budget. And we're confident that we're not straining to meet our expenses. And the expenses are being well managed. I'd also like to propose that we approve the monthly expenses in the amount of $53,423.88 for payment, and I'll recommend that to the board. Is anybody objecting to that recommendation? It's in the files we've been provided for this meeting. It's our routine expenses.
I had a question about the Manjone bills.
Okay.
That was yet another problem. Joy, do you know?
Yes, that was just another lock that they had to fix.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Is everyone in favor of recommending the monthly performance expenses approval in that amount, $53,423.88? Any objection? Any abstention? So by deduction, we'll recommend it. And the last recommendation in our meeting tonight is approval of the Key Bank MasterCard in the amount of $1,572.04. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Before calling the meeting to a close, does anybody want to comment on the meeting?
I'm sorry, I just want to mention, I've abstained from all the votes that have been mentioned since I've been here. I just popped in for the last, I thought we were starting the other meeting, so I apologize. I'm a little early. So I'm just, for the record, I have not voted yay or nay on any motions.
Thank you, Kirsten.
Thank you.
All right, I'd like to call the meeting to a close and turn it over to Marie. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So let me get my agenda out here. Joy, do you want to put up the agenda? Oh, you have the agenda. Thank you. Okay. So the first thing I'd like to do is do a roll call of who's present. Brianna Clark,
Here.
Jerry DeSalle,
Here,
Bob Doherty,
Here, present.
Marie Gavazzi here, Evelyn Katz Greenstein.
Here.
Michelle Hayward Cooper
here,
and Kirsten Lorcher.
Here,
The first thing on the agenda is the public comment. Do we have any public here tonight? Okay. Second is the treasurer's report and approval of expenditures.
Yes, we had hoped to be able to present you with the proposed Troy Public Library money management accounts final prescription. And in our discussion tonight, there was some continued suggestions of different wording in some of it. So we will not be doing that tonight. We'll meet at another time, hopefully come to consensus and bring you our recommendation for the structured descriptions of the accounts. And it's probably coming at a good time as the audit is going to be presented in the coming months, maybe next month. And it would be good to start out in agreement with these things. So we look forward to that next month. The income statements and expenses are running as expected. We're a little bit short in the tax levy receipts. And the expenditures are slightly over, but within reason, about $5,000. Our fiscal condition is whole. We're not concerned about meeting expenses, and the expenses are routine. Does anybody have any question about the income? I could restate it if you like. Our revenue is 80 below budget expectation. Expenses are 13,000 over for the year. 10.7 in materials, which we spent earlier in the year, and 6.3 in facilities. Are there any questions from the financial statement? Hearing none, I'll move on. We need to recommend approval for the payment of our expenses. Our monthly expenses this month are $53,423.88. All seem to be very routine. And so I would recommend to the board that we approve the monthly expenses in that amount, $53,423.88.
I did have one question for Joy. So Joy, have we gotten the credit card and such statements set up so that we can avoid further charges and fees?
Yes, we have.
Yes,
Okay,
that was going to be my next motion. We did receive the credit card statement.
And that includes the other account that seemed to be incurring
Yes.
charges as well? Great, thank you very much.
Sure.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Then you would call the vote, Marie.
Oh, sorry. I'm used to you doing it, Bob. I got in the habit of that. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any against? Any abstentions?
Okay, I had a last,
Motion carries unanimously.
yes. I have one other motion to make. I recommend that we approve the Key Bank's MasterCard April payment in the amount of $1,572.04.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Abstained? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. Does anyone want to request that an item be removed from the consent agenda?
No, but I did want to just say that I found a sentence that in the notes from last time that just stopped. And I just fixed that and I sent it to Joy as a revision. So I apparently stopped mid-thought and never went back to finish it. So that is now corrected.
Thank you.
And not to pull anything, but just to double check. Are there items from 1 to 5? Maybe should I do it in a positive or negative? Are 1 through 5 in there? Is there something that is not in our Dropbox or a report done for this month?
The only thing that's in this month, and I also fixed last month too, what we have are obviously the meeting minutes. We have the building committee report. We have the UHLS report. And Paul always does his director's report, pulls it out separately. So I kept that as a separate, as part of the regular agenda. So that's,
Okay.
I'm removing the other ones.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any against? Any abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. Next on the agenda is the staff presentation on what we refer to as a department, but is actually the Lansingburg branch. Dale, I don't know that you've met everybody. Do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Dale Legue. I'm the branch manager for Lansingburg.
Aye.
This is one of the upstairs rooms, if you've never been upstairs.
So would you like to tell us about the Lansingburg branch and program?
Okay. Well, with no programming going on right now, of course, it's pretty quiet here, but I think we are picking up as people have realized we're open and two people are feeling more comfortable coming out. We've had our numbers dwindle a little bit. We had somebody leave last year just as everything was shutting down for another job. And since the pandemic, we've had somebody resign. So there are 3 of us here right now. I'm not sure quite what you're interested in, what I do or what we do, or
What that branch of the library does, how it may differ from the downtown library, strengths and weaknesses that you see. So obviously, a weakness is that you're not at full staffing, from what you've said.
right, yeah. One of the challenges with Lansingburg is trying to make sure that there are, for staff safety, that there are always 2 of us here. And of course, like I said, right now there's 3 of us. So even though we're only open 3 days a week, sometimes that can be a challenge. Where I was going with this. I think I'm not really sure. It's a little more relaxed up here, I feel like. The downtown branch, I feel, is a very formal building. This is more a community feel, I think. When things are quote unquote normal, on Saturdays, we would have the RPI students come for tutor time. They would spend most of the day upstairs tutoring kids. We've also had high school equivalency classes meet here, book discussions, and of course, story time weekly. We also had a weekly teen video gaming. Of course, like I said, right now, all of that's kind of on hold. We offer public computers. Like downtown, we don't offer the Navigator for people to get the CDTA bus passes, and we can't take credit card payments. But other than that, we can pretty much do what people need in terms of well, checking out books, obviously, but requesting stuff for them, helping them find what they're looking for. And, of course, we're part of Upper Hudson, so if we don't have something here, we can request it. I order books for the branch and figure out when the magazines are due, which ones we want to still subscribe to, maybe others we don't anymore.
You have faxing and printing capability?
We have printing, we don't have a fax here. That's the other thing we don't have here.
Is that because your phone system is incompatible with the?
That would, yeah, but that would be part of it. We would need to do a whole new phone system. Phone line, I should say, in order to do that.
Do board members have questions for Dale?
Yeah, I just had a question in Paul's report. He mentioned that hours were available for people in Lansingburg to use the computers. And then there were 3
Yes.
designated times that you're generally open. Do people use the computers in time that's outside of the three times that you're open each day, each week?
Well, the public computers are only available when we're open.
Okay,
We do have, well, some people can get the Wi-Fi outside the building. And we do also check out the Wi-Fi hotspots for people.
okay, thank you. I just was
yeah.
trying to clarify the meaning of that. Thank you.
Yeah. Right now, it's the same with the main library. We have fewer computers so that people can be spread out more. And we're limiting how much time they can spend on the computer so that they're not here for, the entire day and, breathing in our air and us breathing in their air, so to speak.
Okay, thank you.
Kristen?
You're muted, Kirsten.
I beg your pardon. Dale, hi, I'm Kirsten Lorscher. And certainly a fan of the Lansingburg branch and the building you have there. I'd like to hear more about, are there, and obviously this is an odd year, but maybe you could speak to pre-COVID times and what we might anticipate once COVID starts to wind down in terms of community events or community groups that gather at the Lansingburg branch. Could you speak to that a little bit, perhaps?
Yeah, I don't do scheduling for programming for the most part here. It's done by Carolyn or Stephanie downtown, but we do regularly have done by Michael. Those of you who know Michael Gregg, he wants to say hi to everybody, but he would coordinate the teen gaming on Tuesday afternoons, which is, again, teenagers hop in, we have snacks, they play video games for a couple of hours. He also does story time on Thursday mornings. And we have tutor time on Saturdays. Like I said, that's RPI students, so it's pretty much during the school, the college school year. So they end, before the regular schools generally. We have high school equivalency classes that meet here twice a week. We have, Carolyn does a book discussion here. We also have, our front room is, smaller meeting space. We also have people come in literacy volunteer tutors looking for a quiet space that we could, that way back then we could say, yes, you can use that front room for, privacy and, so they're not disturbing anybody else. Occasionally we'll have groups come in, like a homeowners association wants to use our space for their meeting. And of course we're open, again, during regular times, people can reserve the space if they need it. It's free of charge, and some restrictions, no political, that kind of thing. But again, if we don't have something scheduled, then they can use the space. Carolyn has regularly scheduled things like yoga and Zumba here. So we've had those in the upstairs room. Those were, it's usually for like a set period of time, but it's been, it'll go for a while, be off for a while, then be on for a while. And those have been popular. Art classes here sometimes too.
Are there any things that happen, but that don't happen at the library that you would like to be able to have happen at the library?
One of the things I've thought about, which again, right now with COVID, we haven't seen as many people, I think, but there have been people here that obviously from other countries. I've thought about myself like leading like just an informal English discussion group that they can practice their English, you know, in a place they would feel comfortable doing it. But, you know, it's been kind of an on and off thing. Like I said, we're not seeing too many people around lately that I could see that as a need right now. And of course, like we said, we're not meeting right now. Maybe.
Thank you.
There's a few other things that Lansingburg, Scott. You have the bookseller.
Oh, yes.
That's, yep. Two, your staff is still participating in the Facebook, shall we call them vignettes? I mean, Mike does his musical interlude. Michael does his musical interludes. So, you know, Lansingburg.
Some of those are reruns.
Still, they're still there. The
Yeah.
book group, the Tuesday book group, is the longest running tri-public library book group, you know, in its history. It's been going, I forget how many years it's been going strong. It was virtual, at least for a bit. I stopped. I did participate a couple times and then stopped. If this month, I believe it's the weather holds, is going to meet on the lawn again. So
Carolyn has, well, true disclaimer here, Carolyn has said that the Lansingburg group hasn't done well with virtual meetings. She's had much more success with the downtown group. They want to meet in person, or they don't want to meet, I guess.
Well, you know, it's a different crowd, shall we say, of a different vintage. Trying to be diplomatic. And I will say that, you know, especially the times I've gone up to the Snowman and then walked around that area, there are so many people that use Wi-Fi even when the library is closed. You know, people sitting on the staircase, people, you know, in their car. I know they do it at Maine too, but I think it's even more prevalent at the Berg than downtown.
Yeah.
But you know,
we had. So sorry, when I think we were heard a little bit in circulation when St. Augustine's school across the street closed. I think we used to get a lot of people, you know, parents stopping in after school, but that building is being converted to apartments. So I'm hoping once people are living there, you know, the library's right across the street, they'll come on in and we can maybe put the flyer or something. Hey, we're here, we're open.
Get an ice cream cone, go down to the library.
Jerry, did you have a question?
I did. I was just wondering if anything is anticipated for the warm weather, doing any activities outside once the weather gets nice, and because you've got some space around there. I'm just wondering if anything has been anticipated for that.
Not so much. We've talked a little bit about it. The problem, of course, is if it rains, then there's no place to go because we don't want people on, you know, crowding inside.
Right.
But, you know, we just had kind of casual discussions. Carolyn has, for a long time now, we've had a summer program called Shorts Out Loud, and it's mostly been downtown. We're going to do it one year up here, and then for some reason they didn't wind up doing it up here. But she was trying to figure out if there was a way to do that, because again, if it rains, we don't want, you know, even downtown, you know, we don't want people crowding into the library or, you know, crowding into one room to.
Would it be possible to put up you know, a canopy kind of thing, or is a semi-permanent? I don't know. I mean, that's, I suppose, you know, an expense question, but I'm wondering if that would be a possibility.
Possibly, yeah.
I've heard Paul say that your programs are actually better attended than some of the ones downtown in normal times.
You don't have to worry about parking.
Yeah.
Before I worked up here, I worked at the main library and I did adult programming, and the one complaint I always got, or the one excuse not to come down to programs at the main library, was nobody wanted to deal with the parking. Of course, once I felt that way until I worked down there. Then once you're doing it every day, parking down there, it's like, it's no big deal. Just so you have to walk a couple of blocks.
And I know a challenge you have is that there's not the second story isn't accessible to, there's not any.
Yeah, it's not handicap, yeah, it's not
Stairs
handicap
to the-
accessible. Yeah, that can be a challenge for meeting the board candidates and that kind of thing, because
Mhm.
the upstairs room is better for meeting if you're expecting a larger group, but there's no way to get up here if you can't do stairs. That would be
So-
actually a wish list, if we could figure out a way to get a grant to get an elevator here like we did downtown.
Any other questions for Dale or comments?
Well, we had talked in the last board meeting, I think, about the anniversary coming up. Of the centennial, bicentennial, I'm not sure, of the Lansingburg branch. And was anything planned to celebrate that? Any thoughts?
You looked a little taken aback, Dale. I don't
Well,
know.
somebody mentioned that to me recently, but I was looking at the building history and it looks like I thought it was actually last year was the centennial. But of course, nothing happened last year because of everything that happened last year. But yeah, I'm not quite sure what we could do at this point, other than, social media posts or whatever, because we're limited to how many people we can have in the building at a time and that kind of thing.
Paul had told us that this was the 200th anniversary of the old part of the library.
Okay. I'll have to, I never remember the dates. I thought I saw 1820 on something, which would have been last year.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're right. It is 1820. So that is, we missed it. Oh, wow.
We had other things to worry about last year.
Well, we'll have to have a delayed celebration.
Yeah, we'll have to think of something we can do.
Well, again, I was thinking outdoors, something outdoors. But we would have to worry about the weather.
Yeah.
And I think people are.
Right now we're limited to 10 people at a time.
Yeah.
Oops, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I think people are interested in having opportunities to do things after being confined for so long.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments for Dale?
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Dale. I know it was
Alrighty.
somewhat short notice for you, but it's good to have the board oriented, and our new board members since the last time you were here are Brianna and Jerry. So you get to meet them.
Nice to meet you, Dale.
So thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item is the board racial equality training survey. Did folks see that in the Dropbox?
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
So UHLS is asking that the board as a whole, in essence, complete that survey, not as individuals, after having had a discussion as to what we would like to see. And so does anyone have any comments on what they've indicated? They're asking whether there's an interest in having training beyond something that would be just a one-shot kind of training, if the board feels there's a need for something more than that. One
I feel
area
like-
that,
I feel like it's hard to know until we without knowing what the one shot's gonna cost,
Yeah.
I feel like I'd be able to answer that better if I knew, after after having the one-off, and then from there, I mean, I think it's ongoing conversations are important and could be beneficial. I wouldn't even know how to answer that without knowing, I'd just be kind of guessing.
Yeah, what the training is.
Yeah.
I want to just say that we have an excellent, I don't know if it's still going to be running or not, but the program that Jennifer Barnes has been doing on racial, I'm blanking on what it's called now, but it's an ongoing thing. They do several sessions and then they'll stop and they'll start again. But that has been very informative and just some wonderful discussions and things that we've had on it. So I don't know. And who would give the training? Is it the UHLS that gives it, or who would be doing it?
They haven't really said, but it would, I gather it would be through UHLS. I don't know whether it would be their own staff or somebody
Right.
that would be brought in specifically.
Yeah.
There's a bit on this in the UHLS report, and their task force is working on this piece as we speak. In doing those trainings, and they're looking at different options and how it would be a deliverable or deliverables. I think they're trying to get some feedback as they go through that process on what kind of commitment boards are interested in, for time, for the depth. If boards are interested in racial training at all. And Jerry, Dr. Burns is actually giving another session. We're already in the second. Next week will be the second piece of her newest section. It's like race in America.
Yeah.
There's different topics this is also for everybody.
Uncovering racism. Now, are you in that one, Evelyn?
Yeah.
Are you in that? Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I've been part of the whole set from the beginning, officially or non-officially. In fact, she's giving part of a panel discussion tonight on reparations, which, depending on when we get out of this, I will try to jump into. But anyway, so this library has for several years been presenting the series. So the library certainly has been part of this. I know I brought up a long time ago that statement that was on the Facebook page and following through on that. But back to Upper Hudson, I think Upper Hudson is in that process of trying to say how, what, when, where, and how do we do this. So they're trying to survey the libraries. I also found it difficult to say, well, I don't know how much time is a commitment. I realized it was asking for us as a unit, not individually, but it's hard to determine in advance how much time one would want to commit to this. It depends on the depth and the breadth of the discussion. I do know the task force put a lot of time and effort into all the pieces that are there, and a lot of this is linkable on the Upper Hudson website too. So that might be a resource as we go through trying to think about how to answer that survey.
Except they want a response. They want the survey response by April 30th.
And am I right? This is a survey. It's not a commitment. It's
Right.
Just measuring interest and desire.
Right.
so how would we go about completing it together? Would we do it in a special meeting, or we're not going to do it now? I don't know.
It depends. Well, it depends on what you decide. I mean, if you'd like a special meeting, one can be set up. But
I'm just wondering, how should we do it now, or we have to plan on it if we're going to respond to it and do
right. So do people want to do it now?
It doesn't seem very long to me.
No, it's not. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
There's like 3 There's literally 4 questions.
May I suggest we go through our agenda and see if we have bandwidth to do this at the end of the agenda, as we do it right now and get it returned to you all?
Okay. Next is the director's report. Does anyone have questions on the director's report?
Not a question,
Mhm.
but it's a little bit more interesting with Paul not here. That as we are, as a board, supposed to go through an approval process of changes to the safety plan, reopening plan, and these are some changes to it. And I know there's one more addition that as one of the other changes, that the Lansingburg staff is now allowed into the main library, which they had not been for quite a while, and that there is some blending of the team approach at Maine too, staffing wise.
Well, I would think that the having 2 separate staffing groups would have had to be changed in order to expand hours.
Right. Again, this is just a process issue, as we're supposed to make intermediate revisions to the plans and go through I'll call it the acknowledgement, if not approval process.
I also noticed that there was some mention of this at the last board meeting, that Paul was looking to expand hours.
Yep. And it's on the website. I mean, it's, except for the thing about staff, the piece about staff, everything else is on the website too.
Didn't we at some point, and I'd have to look back in my notes, didn't we have a discussion with Paul about I hit my button. I hit the space. I hit the space bar. I hit the space bar and it mutes. That's what I get for flailing my arms around. So didn't we at one time have a conversation about this in maybe the last meeting, if not the last and the one before, when Paul was talking about making these like little tweaks to it based on the different because the rates things change so quickly in between board meetings. Didn't we approve some language that said that, or did we at least talked about doing it, that basically gave him flexibility to make some of these changes, right? And maybe with the understanding that we talk about them afterwards or something, I guess. I don't know.
Exactly. You're absolutely correct. So, we could just make a motion. I'll make a motion that the board acknowledges the current changes to the reopening plan, that we are aware and acknowledge the changes to the reopening plan as stated on the Troy Public Library website. How does that sound?
Sure.
Okay.
Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. Oh, did you abstain? So one abstention? You have that, Michelle, with the
Yeah.
I'm
change?
sorry, I had my mute on. Marie, I abstained as well, scarcely.
Okay, so 2 abstentions. So that leaves 5 in favor. 2 abstentions are Bob and Kirsten.
And if I could, Marie, I'm going to have to leave now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bob.
Thanks,
Right.
Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
Bye.
So Evelyn, any other comments on the reopening plan?
I don't think so. I think we pretty much.
Okay, covered it.
Good.
Okay, any other questions or comments on the remainder of the report? The buildings, I was up in Lansingburg the other day. And I saw the work that was done. It looked good to me,
Yep.
except wasn't painted as Paul described.
Yeah, that needs to be done. It looked a little ragged. But the floor looks good.
Hmm?
The floor looked good and the molding, no, what's the right word?
Wainscoting.
Wainscot.
Wainscoting looked very nice. And I hear it's a stable floor now, so that's what's important.
Okay, and he also mentions that the contract is in place for the HSR, which is good news. Joy, do you have any idea whether that contract has been sent to grant, associated grantors?
I do not have that information. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine. You do so much else, you can't keep up with it. Things that really aren't in your purview anyway. And Paul did say that we should be getting an updated timeline from them sometime this week, that they are working on that.
Thank you.
The state budget is described here and the funding available. I know the targeted aid, Nyla has said that requests for funding should be to the legislators by the 12th of May. They're recommending. Anything else on Paul's report? Observations and community feedback. I was asked to tell you that a meet and greet is being planned by the Friends on May 13th from 4 to 6 p.m. for essentially everybody. It's at Freda Merson's house. And of course, the board is invited to attend. And I believe that the rain date is on the following Sunday, but I don't have the details on that.
What did you say the date was? I'm sorry, date and time, I'm sorry.
May 13th
Okay,
from 4 to 6 p.m.
thank you.
And she lives in the Sickaway area.
Oh, she probably lives not too far from me, probably.
Is that an outdoor event?
Yes, that's why there's a rain date.
And the rain date's the
Right,
16th.
Thank you.
Pardon?
Rain date's the 16th. The next Sunday.
I believe so.
She has a very nice garden.
Complete with metal sculpture.
Oh yeah, that she's made.
Is there any other feedback?
Just that thanks to Zoom, again, there is an appreciation of our use of Zoom by instructors who are instructing from out of state and participants who are attending out of the area. So the fact that we do this electronically is very much appreciated. And we had some comments on that too.
Are you talking about the board meetings or the
Programming.
the programs? Okay.
Yep, the programming. The programs were right.
Anybody else? Old business, new business. The Lansingburg anniversary, which apparently is its 201st anniversary. I did talk with the Friends of the Library and also with the Lansingburg Historical Society. And they're both interested in collaborating with us on it. So next, we're back to the board racial equality training survey. Does anyone want to talk on that while I plug in my laptop? No?
I mean, I think, so my thought is, until we know more, I suggest going, I mean, I'm very interested in this, but, you know, and I would say that I can definitely commit to the smallest amount of time, the monthly, the 30 minutes monthly. I can honestly say, I don't think I could personally do 2 hours bi-monthly. You know, but if we're giving feedback, I'd say my tendency is to go conservative. And then, you know, kind of see what shakes out. Like, I don't know. I mean, if it's good and if they've got good stuff and it's like providing us a lot of information, then sure, more is more, that's great. But I don't want to, I'm not comfortable committing to something extensive with, you know, little information. So that's my thought.
But it strikes me as though they're talking about fairly large timeframes compared to what the board currently spends time on, which has, you know, just a multitude of different responsibilities. On the other hand, we certainly need help in how to recruit more diverse board members. We're policy, I would think staff may need more help than we do as far as the programs and interactions with the public.
Are there any costs associated with this?
Pardon me?
I'm sorry. Are there any costs associated with this?
I don't believe so. Kirsten, I don't believe there will be costs to the library for this.
It's just, yeah, the questionnaire is not clear, you know, is it a financial, is it something you need to put into the budget that we need to plan for? Is this something that they're proposing to offer annually? Is it something they're thinking this is a one-shot deal? Hey, we're going to give this a try. And
okay. I will guess that will be like many other Upper Hudson educational programs, that if it's budgeted for, it will be at Upper Hudson's budget, not by the libraries, because most of we have not paid for any of the other informational sessions that we've been part of.
Okay.
Education.
It says that it can be part of the regular meeting or separate. What about the level of interest? Michelle says that potentially she's very interested, depending on what the content is, right?
I mean, I think I'm very interested, period. Depending on the content kind of determines how much, you know, how much time I'm willing to commit.
yeah, I think that's well said. I would agree with that. Certainly, it's a topic that's very relevant, very interesting. Certainly, always more to learn. And if it's well presented, it could be exciting and very beneficial. And if it's not well presented, then we don't want to necessarily spend time on that particular presentation. Maybe we need to find a different presentation then. How it's structured, I'm open to hearing thoughts on it as well. And to say we're going to add another half hour to our regular meeting for 6 months, that might not be the best way to do it. But
Right.
certainly,
Especially when sometimes our meetings can go till 8 o'clock. I mean, that's not that rare, but they can. And, you know, that's, I also think that, I mean, I think it's that we, do we have any board term, are any of our trustees terms up this September? Do we have any elections this September? I know Kirsten and I started at the same time.
One seat is up this September.
Me.
Okay. And I'm just thinking about, you know, I think it'd be good to, you know, if, and then I know in the next year, there's you know, Bob and Kirsten and I are all up. I mean, I think it's good to start thinking about, you know, if these trainings or whoever there's going to, you know, do this can help us come up with some strategies to recruit a more diverse group of candidates for board members, then I think that's great. I think that's, you know, then that's definitely worthwhile if there are strategies for it, you know, and we have some time before there are, you know, any big, you know, when there's like the three of us, like I said, I know that the three of us, and Marie, I think your term is the same because you went for re-election the same time we did. So there's like there's four. So, you know, I just think it's that it could be very useful for that. But again, you know, I'm interested. I just don't know. I'm hesitant to commit to any of those large numbers.
Anyone else?
Well, definitely interested. I think, as Michelle said, it's probably advisable not to do it during a board meeting. You know, especially these are the kinds of issues that when you get into a discussion, you don't want to curtail the time. It needs to flow and ideas need to be shared. And I think doing it in a meeting might preclude that. I think a separate time, but it all depends on, so the interest is there, certainly on my part. The timetable depends on, you know, the timing depends on everybody else.
I agree with everything that Evelyn and Michelle and Kirsten have said. Interest is there. Timing is depending. So I agree with Michelle, err on the side of conservative, and then there's always room to move up and increase time depending on how it is.
Yeah, I'm very interested in doing it. I may have a little more time than other people because I'm retired, but not necessarily. And again, I don't think it's a good idea to do it at the end of the board meeting or tack it on, have it part of the board meeting, because it's a whole separate thing. But I would certainly be very interested in going through the training. And I'm just curious as to who would be doing the training, what it would consist of. That's very important to know. And would we do it at our location? Would we go to a central location? I don't know. Are those things spelled out? I can't access the thing. Somehow I can't access it on my Dropbox, so I can't see it. But I think those are questions we want to ask. Who's doing it? Where is it going to be done? And how long? What they're talking about. So how can we find that out?
Okay. If you don't mind, I'll read what's in the Upper Hudson report. This is like an idea from from the task force is board training. Results of a survey to boards out this week will help the task force understand the interest and capacity boards have for training on racial equality in library services. Under consideration, in addition to a UHLS presented information brief, RA, and I just, oh, okay, never mind. Now I know where it disappeared.
Ah, good.
Oh, you can keep going. You
Well,
can
like,
keep going. I just put it up there just because.
I like this. It's better for everyone to read it than have to listen to me. Oh, anyway, DIY curriculum of readings, discussion questions, activity challenge to expert-led training. So there's a variety of modes that they're looking at, you know, how to deliver this. But certainly I think at this point, they're trying to gauge, you know, what, like you said, what kind of time people have to commit for this and what kind of interest there is in this. You know, again, the discussions we have with Jennifer Burns, while they're every other week and usually based on a reading, always based on a reading,
Lot of reading.
we can go for almost an hour and a half over in the discussion, you know?
Yeah.
Well, there's more than 7 people in it, but still, you know, there's a flow of ideas. So it makes it difficult to say, let's just do it quickly. Although if they do an informational brief, that might be a quick piece. I don't know.
So what about doing a one-time occurrence versus
Yeah.
regular, as Evelyn was describing the library program? They're talking about monthly for 30 minutes, monthly for an hour, bi-monthly for 1 hour, bi-monthly for 2 hours.
Well, for me, I think if it's not, and I agree, I don't think it makes sense to tack it on to one of our meetings, because then if it's going long, people are feeling like, you know, it's that whole, don't introduce new content at the end of the school day. But I think if you're gonna, I'm almost of the mind that in for 30 minutes, in for an hour. It doesn't make sense if it's going to be a separate thing. An hour, 30 minutes is not enough. An hour, you know, it almost, for me, at least for me, if I'm making time for 30 minutes, it's not that much of a bigger deal to do it for an hour. And I think you're going to get more, you know, more time now, or even bi-monthly for 2 hours. Like I feel like for me, it's, if I'm setting aside the time, 30 minutes is nothing. You know, an hour makes sense, but so I don't know, that's my thought.
Would you be more open to a monthly or a bi-monthly for the hour?
Well, I think when I first read bi-monthly, it stuck in my head as bi-weekly. And I'm like, so that's what, as I'm looking at this again now, I'm like, bi-monthly 2 hours, or bi-monthly an hour, or 2 makes more sense. Like, it's easier for me to make, again, that would probably work. I think you can have, like, if there's a discussion piece of it, it makes more sense to have it be a little bit of a, I'd rather have it less frequent and have it be a little more substantive than have it, you know, be trying to jam everything into a short period. And then by the next time you get to the next month, you're totally forgot what you were talking about the month before. So
For going through survey, what we could do, and I'm trying to go back and forth, sorry, is say, all right, question 1 would be, okay, first question, our board is very interested, somewhat interested, not very interested, not at all interested, another. It sounds, you know, anyone has an objection to this, it sounds like we would say that our board is very interested.
Yes.
Okay. Is not, okay, so we can skip the next one. If your board is very interested in, and blah, blah, blah. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5 options. If we wanted to go through option 1, 2, 3 and get an idea of how many people are interested in monthly 30, monthly 1 hour, bi-monthly 1 hour, bi-monthly 2 hours, or if there's another possibility. Shall we go through the 1, 2, 3, the 4 first options and then see where we land?
Well, when they talk about monthly or bi-monthly, how many months are we talking about? How
Well, I
long?
think that goes to the next question is how long, which is, maybe should have asked if your board is interested,
yeah.
would you see as a feasible duration is that next question of 6 months, 1 year, 18 months, 2 years? Okay.
So Evelyn, may I ask a question?
Sure, absolutely.
Could you please clarify when they say bi-monthly, does that mean every other month or does that mean twice a month?
Because it's coming after monthly, I'm going bi-monthly is every other month.
Every other month.
See, that's not the way I'm reading it. They're going from shorter durations to longer durations. And it starts with the least commitment and it's going to the most commitment. It's the way I see all the questions being structured.
Okay, because I'm looking at, let's see, biannual is twice a year?
Yeah, because bi-weekly is every other week.
Yeah, and bi-monthly, I think is every other month, but
I think I see
Okay,
that.
so we have a question on
every
interpretation.
day.
If they said semi-monthly, then I would say that's twice a month.
Twice.
Okay. So we can add that to the other part to say, as long as bi-monthly means every other month.
Well, does anybody have an interest in doing like a 1 day long thing and that be it? Or no?
Well, I shouldn't, okay, my mouth, sorry. The thing is, if we're gonna do discussion, sometimes being able to discuss it, think about it, process it, and then come back and then kind of open up that discussion again helps instead of doing it all in 1 day for certain things.
Mhm.
I had to say that, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point.
Kirsten?
I think it could be interesting if one did a few short sessions that talk about the subject in broad strokes and then have a longer focus session. So maybe a series of half-hour or hour presentations and then a longer workshop that sort of gives an opportunity to really dig into it into a greater degree after one's learned some of the same vocabulary and language, and maybe there's readings that go with that first part.
So there's a later question than the one currently displayed, which asks for how much time in all you would be willing to commit.
Right.
And it goes from, oh, you have it up there, so you can see what. So maybe that's kind of a better place to start and then talk about how you'd prefer to.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking something like 6 hours.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds reasonable to me, because I was certainly feeling overwhelmed by the 15.
Yeah.
I'm amenable to 6 hours too.
Me too.
Okay, that sounds good. So then the question preceding that is, over what time period, essentially? Ranging from 6 months to 2 years or other.
I would do other and do shorter.
Shorter than 6 months?
I think so. If it's only 6 hours, it'll be an hour. I mean, it could be an hour a month, but I don't think you get very far with that little time. I think having concentrated periods makes more of a difference than, an hour here and an hour there.
So perhaps 3 hours for 2 times?
Yeah.
I would think
That's-
longer than 3 hours would be difficult.
I think 3 hours is difficult.
I agree.
Well,
So
So we could do 2 hours for 3 times, you know?
over what period? Over 6 months? Or
I
3
say 6 months and we can fit and we, we're not locked into any of this, but
Yeah, well, 6 months and that actually then would be 2 hours every other month.
Right.
or how about 2 hours for 3 months? Because I wouldn't think you'd want the time span to be too great in between. Wouldn't you lose?
Over 6 months, I think you kind of lose some of the momentum. But that would, 6 months would be 2 hours a month, but
I would agree, not longer than 6 months. I'm open to 3 to 6 months.
6, yeah, 1 hour. Yeah, 3, yeah, I'd say 3 months and 2 hours a month for 3 months in a row.
So could we answer other and just put 3 to 6 months? That sounds like where everybody's landing.
yeah.
Okay.
Because I just think, so here's where my mind is going, that I don't want, and I know this doesn't commit to anything, but I can't speak for anybody else, but I can't swear that for 3 months in a row, especially this summer coming, and I plan on actually doing stuff this summer now that I'm vaccinated and my husband's almost vaccinated. I can't swear to you that I can promise that I'll be available for 2, that consistently. So I'd rather not lock in something like that, even though I know this isn't locking anything in and it's just giving them feedback, but I just want to be upfront.
So you're saying not, is it what you're,
I say other 3 to 6 months so that we can, if it takes, if we find that, like I said, I know we're not committing to anything, but I'd feel more comfortable having a little wiggle room with the summer upon us. If
or you
this
mean
is,
flexibility for scheduling?
yes, exactly.
We don't have to plan it for the summer. We could do it for the fall, winter.
And there's no TBD date from your upper husband when they're going to start doing the deliverables.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And we said for whenever the sessions, it sounded like 2 hours each session.
I would not recommend any longer than 2 hours.
Right.
And
Correct.
I think
2 hours max.
Hey, can you check multiple options on this form? Can we just check all of them except for the 30-minute one?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I didn't try completing it.
could do just under the other.
Or just put it in other and say we're open to any of the options except for the 30-minute option.
30-minute, yeah.
So you want as few as 1 hour?
That's what it sounded like for everyone was, yes.
Oh, I thought it sounded like 2 hours.
Yeah,
No, I'd be open for a 1 hour meeting.
Yeah, 1 to 2.
Okay, 1 to 2 hours. Okay, I think it's completed.
Hey,
What do other people think?
Yes.
for all the questions, I guess it's complete. I finally got my survey online I have to send back. I just found. So I'm glad we got that one done. It's one less thing I have to worry about.
Okay. That's done. Is there any other thing that needs to be discussed? Hearing none. Our next meeting is May 11th. And I guess we can adjourn.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye,